This is a good one.
are getting turbo cancers now. Why? Because of the weapon. So when you make this jump, you think it's a quantum leap, but it's actually not. This is where you have to know all the work of Doug Wallace. You have to know the work of Becker.
Yes.
You have to know the work of Nora Volkow. You have to know Nora Volkow's history and where she comes from. In my meeting with Becker, he warned me about Nora Volkow. He said, "Do you know anything about this lady in 2006 who took over the National Institute for Drug Abuse?" I said, "No, I don't." He told me she's Trotsky's granddaughter.
What?
He says, "You better watch out for her. I think she's a problem."
They
And
both.
it turned out he was pretty smart to tell me that. What did she eventually go on to do? She presented the most seminal paper in 2011 that actually gets to your question. When you put a cell phone up to the side of your head, what does it do? It releases blood glucose and insulin. Guess
What? You can get blood glucose and insulin without eating? You can just put, my phone is too far away. You can just put phone right here and microwave your brain and raise your blood glucose and insulin. That might have something to do with diabetes and all kinds of other problems.
Guess who was the first person to tell DARPA that? Alan Fry. Who was the second one? Bus Addy. Who was the third one? Dr. Becker. Dr. Becker did that study in Pensacola on the pilots that were down there. And he found out that the blue light and the non-native EMF from the avionics arrays were raising their blood sugar and raising their triglycerides.
Wait a second. Let's hear the rest.
Irrespective of their diet.
What? Your triglycerides can be raised without even eating that sugar, without even eating that fruit. No wonder they are so high for everybody.
But Becker had no way to know what everybody else had found. Because remember, he was focused on regeneration research. But DARPA focused all on this and then put it to the side. So eventually, in 06 to 11, we find out that Volkow understands completely how this process works. Why? Remember who she works for. The National Institute for Drug Abuse. Why is this important to DARPA? Because they figured out if they could stop the biology of beta endorphin and methencaphalin, that starting a drug war in the United States.
And where do you get beta endorphin? From the sun, bro. Sun makes you addicted to it. By nature's design. Sun is like being on drugs. That's why everybody likes when the sun is out. That's why everybody sunbathes. That's why you feel so amazing, because literally the UVA light from the sun makes beta endorphins in your body. With you just being there, letting the sunlight hit your sack or your teeth. How cool is that? Nature wants you to be out in the nature. And that's where you feel your best. Because nature makes you feel your best. And does it have negative consequences? No. Except if you get too much sunlight. You gotta know your limits, boy. If you're white boy, you gotta know your limits.
The United States would be really beneficial to their plant. Why? Because you're addicted to be in nature, in sunlight. So if you can uncouple somebody from that, then you give them fake opiates, and then...
Might this be the reason why so many people are having... obviously there's many reasons, but might this be one of the reasons people don't really talk about? Nobody talks about this Jack Roos for 20 years. Might this be the reason why so many people mentally ill, mentally unwell, just feeling apathetic, just hopeless, don't got any motivation to do anything, dopamine low, Hell yeah, it does.
you become much more programmable to the MK Ultra program. That is actually how this all fit together. So, if you understand where most drug abuse comes from, it's in people that live at night with artificial light, blue lit. What does that effectively do? Here's where the mitochondrial story comes in. So this is what you need to know. The antenna on either side of the key is NAD, NADH, and over here is oxygen. In between my two fingers is the rest of the intermitochondrial membrane. 20 years ago, Nick Lane wrote a book called Power, Sex, and Suicide, and he said, where my thumbs are, carries a 30 million volt charge. It's hard to believe, but the reason why the physics makes sense is that intermitochondrial membrane is only 6 angstroms big. So when the scale in electromagnetism shrinks, the power goes up. So that's the reason why it's got that charge. So you need to know that. So what does that mean? It means that that has the same power that's in a bolt of lightning. So when you're a neurosurgeon and you're trying to put this all together, you ask the very simple third grade question. What did nature do to confine a 30 million volt current? And the answer is staring all of us in the face, but most of you have still no clue how nature did it. That's called cytochrome C oxidase. It makes water.
We have no clue because we don't get education about real important things anymore. And everybody's retarded also. We might get into that. We all have a little bit of retardation because of the modern lifestyle and the system we are brought into without our consent.
It makes a very specific kind of water called deuterium depleted water that has no ions in it. It is completely pure water. That means it doesn't conduct electricity. Okay? It's a perfect insulator. So guess what happens? Then you need to ask the second question. What do you know about cytochrome C oxidase? It's a heme-based protein. What does blue light effectively do from the MK Ultra program? Blue light hits melanopsin. Anytime light hits an opsin, vitamin A comes off. What does vitamin A do? Vitamin A is separated and it blows up anything made out of heme.
Vitamin A might be toxic if you live in a blue lit environment, man-made environment. Vitamin A might be bad for you. That might be the answer because everybody's confused in the diet world. Vitamin A toxic, vitamin A good, vitamin A bad. Can you get too much vitamin A? Or you can't get too much vitamin A basically? Well, what Jack just explained here, if you're in a blue lit environment, vitamin A can start to cause some chaos inside of you. That's what I took it.
Anything. So guess what? The liberated vitamin A is what destroys the cytochrome C oxidase. Then what effectively happens in the cell? The 30 million volt charge gets to leak out to go wherever it's allowed to go to, where the connection is, whether that be a circulatory pathway, could it be a neural pathway, could it be anything. What's the distal effect? It causes a brownout. It blows cells out. Why? Here's what you have to think about. Common sense. If you had a house and you bought it in the 1920s and you hooked it up to the modern power grid and you decided to put a coffee maker in there, what do you think would happen? The house burns down. Got it? So effectively, what did MK Ultra, SRI, and the Brain Health Initiative realize through their 75 years worth of work? We can cause distant TBIs in people, and we can do it with very low frequency light in the visible spectrum. So what did they start doing? They started testing every part of the spectrum. What else could we do with this technology? And then they found out the key part. They found out, this is the part that really worried me about Huberman and his dad. If you know anything about what's going on in space medicine now, and the ISS, they are now hiring, DARPA's hiring condensed matter physicists to figure out how to put melanin in the ISS and everywhere in the space program. Why? Because when melanin is dehydrated, meaning dry, it's the best electrical conductor that you can imagine. We have no better semiconductor on Earth than melanin that's dry. Guess what happens when you hydrate melanin with deuterium-depleted water? It destroys the electric conductance. So now you do a hard stop. So our friend from Portland who just read the Electric Body's book, what did he hear that was critical that he probably glossed over, but I guarantee he's going to go back and read now? Becker found that 1/1,000,000,000th of 1 ampere turned a red blood cell into a pluripotential cell that healed bone. 1/1,000,000,000th of 1 ampere. I just told you there's 30 million volts on the inner mitochondrial membrane. It turns out that what nature is really doing is that she's using melanin to conduct but dampen the electric current to such a small current that drives regeneration. Now we know the process from Becker in bone. So the question should come up to you now that you're beginning to see the pieces fit together. Well, do we use the same process for red blood cells to heal every other part of our body? And the answer is no. Why? In the science that's been developed in the last 40 years, we know that we have stem cell depots. Most of you know that. What most of you don't know is, do you know what chemical controls the stem cell depots? Nitric oxide.
I know where you get at. Sun, UVA light again. Nitric oxide.
How do you like that? And what makes nitric oxide? UVA light, the same light that makes melanin. Isn't that a shocker? And here's the best part. What creates nitric oxide in the body? Nitric oxide synthetase. It's a human-based enzyme. So that gets destroyed also by this process. So what DARPA figured out is they can uncouple regeneration by using blue light. In other words, you'll never be able to heal.
So, damn, that hurts. That hurts. If you cannot heal, and what do we see in the modern world? Everybody's aging fast. Everybody's got all these illnesses, all these diseases. Seems like most people are not able to heal. And many people jump from diet to diet, even with this natural diet that I'm doing, like carnivore diet or even raw meat diet or vegan diet, whatever diet. People jump from those diets. I know many people have tried the raw meat diet, but it failed them. They jump to the other ones. They're always searching for something else. It's not all about the food, bros and gals.
Well, the key is get rid of UV and IR light. So do you want to know why Obama and Biden got rid of the incandescent bulb? Now,
because they are such nice guys that think about the energy production in the world. Because those lights, they cost so much energy to run. You're gonna think about the planet a little bit over here, guys. You're gonna think about the global warming effects. Am I right, guys? Think about Greta Thunberg. Think about Greta's feelings if we keep using those old days light bulbs. They are so much better. They're the much better man-made option. But this is the best option right there.
you're beginning to see the plan. Now you're beginning to understand just how fucking nefarious these people are. So, is there another way besides light that you can do that? Circa, let's say, 2020. You create a bioweapon, a virus, that also will have an effect on this. Remember, one of the key things that everybody talked about in the beginning of COVID, when you get this respiratory virus, what's the key feature? You lose your ability to taste and smell. What does that tell you? When it goes in there, it unwires the covering of the melanocytes in the olfactory bulb, okay? Does the same thing in taste, which is controlled by a couple of cranial nerves. So that's how they actually know that the mechanism is working. And what happens when that occurs? You get distal things. What's the number one distal thing that the olfactory bulb connects to? The limbic system, which is why people start to have mental problems, which is why cognitive ability is altered. Why? The olfactory nerve in mammals and reptiles ties to the oldest part of cortex that we have. That's different cortex than neocortex. That's three-level. Three-layer cortex is very easily damaged. So DARPA has figured all this out as well. So you fast.
These guys have figured out quite a bit. They have figured out quite a bit. And some of this a long time ago, like 50 to 70 years ago. We got a lot of catching up to do if we wanna become unretarded.
Fast forward, and you see in the bioweapon solution created by Dr. Fauci and Barrick at North Carolina, what's the most interesting part? They have a liquid nanoparticle that surrounds the spike protein. Guess what that does? It allows it to get through the blood-brain barrier. It allows it to get to where the mitochondria are, and what does it do? It also destroys things between NAD and here. So it has the same effect. So now you have a double whammy. So here's the most important part. Just don't think I didn't forget about your question with cancer. You have this problem here, and this is broken, and the current is leaking out everywhere, right? But oxygen, look at my finger. Stop writing. Look, this finger here, oxygen is electronegative. It's the second most electronegative atom on the periodic table. That means it pulls huge amounts of electrons. This is broken, the current's out. That means the spike of ROS and RNS is through the roof. That stimulates pro-growth. It also does something else. It shifts you to a Warburg metabolism. That's the work of neurovolcal. So
Except
now
in our eyes.
they force you into a redox shift to raise blood glucose and insulin while causing this problem. That's a pro-growth signal. That is the reason why everybody is getting cancers.
Let's hear that one more time.
Now they force you into a redox shift to raise blood glucose and insulin while causing this problem. That's a pro-growth signal. That is the reason why everybody is getting cancers.
We're seeing that. Just my own small practice. I got.
You don't have to worry about your practice. It's happening at scale.
Yeah,
We
bro.
already know this. This is no longer a mystery.
Like I talked about one of my episodes a long time ago. We had this high school dance, and the girl I was dancing with, she already died with cancer a couple of years ago. Like people at my age, they're dropping already with cancers. And she didn't even get the jab.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And the worst, this is not just a story about the Pfizer jabs that have SV40. Those people have an elevated risk because they have another problem that they learned about in the Cutter event. But every
Can you explain
jab,
that?
well, not yet, because it's not. We're not finished with this story. The LMPs are in every single jab. Not only that, here's the bad news. Almost every single jab created since 1986 has some of this technology in it. So guess what? They've been testing this on children. Why would they do this on children through the vaccine schedule? What do you know about children that's very similar to what I told you about Elon Musk people? They have no myelin. They're much more sensitive to electromagnetic radiation. Guess what else? You can easily open their blood-brain barrier and their gut barrier, which is whose work? Alan Fry. So guess what? You get to test this while nobody knows what you're doing for 50 years to find out what's the best way to do this.
Bruh. These guys are nefarious geniuses. This is all, again, like, so bad, it's almost, this is base science, bro. These guys figured this shit out a long time ago and they've been testing it on us. Me, you, your family. your friends. And that's why we are a little bit retarded. Let's be honest.
And what did they find out? This is the most amazing part of the story. So do you remember in the Navy Yards in Virginia a couple of years ago, about 10 years ago, a guy went in there with ELF carved into his rifle and he killed 12 people. And he targeted the people specifically because he thought that they were using directed energy weapons to get in his head. Turns out that guy's lost to history. But what did the military learn that time? The more melanated you are, the more resistant you are to the program. Got it? Then what happens? During Obama's reign, a guy who's 32-year-old lawyer goes with a gun in Florida State and shoots his library up where he was a student. Doesn't kill anybody, but he's also African American. What magically happens after that? SRI program gets moved to the Brain Health Initiative. You know where that's located? Central and South America. Do you know why? That's where brown and black people live. And guess what happens? The same program then is run. How do we overcome
the melanation problem?
And the key problem is dehydrate the melanin sheaths, and the melanin doesn't matter.
How do you do that?
In other words, they found the solution to the program.
Oh boy. Right.
Beginning to make some sense now?
Too much.
And what's the easiest way to dehydrate that melanin?
I need to be on that. I thought you were paying attention.
No.
Did you pay attention to this lesson? Because this might be the most important lesson over here. Like raw chicken, salmon, Nutella. It's pretty cool. Breaking down germ theory. It's pretty cool. But this might be the real base knowledge. This might be the real base science. Or this is the real base science. And what's the answer? You're looking at it right there. This place I'm filming right now with my computer, with my phone over there, that's on airplane mode all the time, bro. This is not the answer. So now I need to mitigate this little base science lesson I made for you guys with Uncle Jack's help. He's the master. Now we need to go out there to mitigate some of these negative consequences. We went like this, little bit. We need to go like this. Jeez. You feeling me?